Right. Mostly vacation, we also get work done. Study, you see, there's a study down there. That's hard. Margarita. I don't know what's your drink.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's right. So for the rest of the exercise.
That's how it always goes.
Yeah, that's that was my first thing. Yeah.
Really? Okay, yeah, I like it.
Then we can house for others.
Yeah. Or I guess the other thing I'm sitting here.
It's a good investment. Great investment.
I've got a lot of base on the
So probably my daughter's just 16. Used to. Yeah.
It's good. Brother with her. Yeah, get a great time.
It makes it feel good.
The biggest part was fun. Yeah, so my sister was there also.
When's that? Oh, offensive, we were. Oh, yeah. We might get started. I know.
think they wanted to see how Buckeyes are easier.
How are you doing?
We need this to be a low. Imagine that.
Well, screw it. It's like you're prepared. But not to. I could probably take it from you. If that happens, I'm probably doing it. He names his third straight center. I make some slides. When it's something big like that, I'm scared.
Possibly need me to publish. He's like, I did it in July 1st. What is it? Is there some things?
Oh, it's just we're very. Yeah, he doesn't allow it. All the things that yeah, it's like gospel. I thought you understood my thing though.
What is that?
What you think of this team? Think about change. That's true. And you got the extra wild card. I think how it does is wild card. I love looking at the standings.
No, that's right.
And they like lose 6 on the home.
You know, I'm actually a nice little one.
I love the Scarlet. I just want to.
Experience, but still young experience. And a lot of
I'll be shocked they don't get the trade. Good starting pitcher. Still under his son. More than 1 year. At least 2, maybe 3. And you trade, you're gonna have to trade some good prospects. The guys that might block like this guy named Goldie Hesse, probably a couple others. And then sign, they'll have money to spend. I'm not gonna break the bank, but finally, this is the one bottom that's on the list. You stop this goes on the list. Then he gets back, I think they'll play some good shit on it. I'll be able to buy him out and do a small sale.
I'm just going to start off. Had some unfortunate news to share. We're not going to have Bennett Christian this season. He tested positive for a banned supplement in January. Feels terrible. He knows he made a mistake. Still going to practice with us. He's still an important part of the team. You know, he's a great young man who made a mistake. He's got a great family, and I commend him for being transparent. He accepts his responsibility. He wants to share his story, with everybody and with the team, which we'll allow him to do later today, so others don't make the same mistake. So there's a statement from Bennett explaining his situation, and that Jerry will get to all of you guys shortly. So I just wanted to give you guys that update.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Third row right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Ryan, talking about separation in this quarterback room as you're looking forward as camp progresses, how much separation does there need to be? Is it enough that one guy does maybe this one thing better, but they're otherwise even, or does there need to be a sizable gap there? What kind of separation are you looking for?
Yeah, you'd like a sizable gap to name a starter for sure. Hard to name somebody when there isn't a significant gap, like you said. So looking for someone to emerge. There's been good things. There's been things that they want back, and I appreciate their competitiveness right now. They're going at it every day. We are not ready to name a starter right now. And so the competition will continue this week.
I guess following up on that, if it came down to starting playing two quarterbacks in Indiana or picking one guy, would you still need to see that sizable gap, or would you go to a two quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think that's something we have to decide this week. Probably is that. Are we ready to, name somebody by the end of the week, or does the competition continue into the season? That's not ideal, but if that's where we're at, then that's what we'll do.
Deep right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Roll.
Ryan, when you see Tywin Malone out there working with the defensive line and getting in the backfield, is that what you guys expected from him right away, or has he kind of caught you guys by surprise compared to what you thought getting from him?
Tywin Malone. Tywin is someone that we recruited out of high school who was a baseball player and a football player and split his time when he was in high school and at Ole Miss, and so, we felt like if he just completely devoted himself to football, we were able to get the best version of Tywin. And so we've seen so far flashes that he can do it. But it's going to go back to, you get to this point of preseason camp. I'm going to continually say this. It's about the consistency of doing it all the time. But we see the ability, and we know that if he shows consistency, that he can help us.
Third row, left hand, Hope 11 Warriors.
Ryan, we saw Josh Simmons at left tackle on Friday. Are you guys looking at him as the leader at left tackle right now?
I think he's had some really good practices, and he's shown that he can be the starting left tackle. He has not won that job yet, but he has shown traits that make us believe that he can be that guy.
And, but the other side, right tackle, are you guys looking at Josh Fryer primarily at that spot right now?
Yeah, he's somebody that went, he's kind of gone back and forth a little bit. He's got flexibility that way. Some guys, they really struggle moving. DeJuan really struggled doing that. Some guys, it's not as hard. For Josh, he feels comfortable playing on the right side, and so is Luke. And so, we've kind of, like we talked about last week, we've looked at who's going to be the best moving forward for the long term. We felt like Simmons gave us an opportunity to maybe look at him over there and then figure out where to go moving forward. So Tegra is moved over to left as well. We've kind of settled into that the last few practices, and we felt like if we were going to make that move, we had to make it early on in the preseason. And I think it's going to be the best for the long term, but we'll continue to evaluate it.
Ryan, how long into a camp would you want to keep doing the split squad stuff to get double the reps?
I think one of the questions for the line, for the young players, for the quarterbacks, how do you split up the reps? And the more reps you get, the better off. We're in a situation where we're in a constant battle to get these guys reps, and so the split field has allowed us to get so many more, almost not double, but a lot more reps. I'm actually probably going to have them take a look at it because in the past we would go 1s, 2s, and then we get the 3s in there. But there's a couple issues with that. The first issue is when you go 1s, 2s, and 3s all in the same field, by the time you get to the 3s, the 1s kind of, they've been standing over there for a while. You want to get practice going. And so we're able to get, 48 reps in about a 12-minute period. And that's pretty good work. So as we get closer, we also have, and that's only really in one of the periods. So when we go in an hour and a half practice or a 3-hour or a 2-hour practice, we have one field where we'll just go 1s and 2s. We'll get a rack of 3s, and then we'll come back 1s and 2s, and that's just all in one field. So we're combining them. One of the things that it's allowed us to do, having 120 guys in camp, is do that. In the past, when they capped it at 110, you weren't able to do that. So this has allowed us to get way more reps, and certainly as we get into the end of this week, next week and game week, then it certainly changes. But we've been able to get some really good on good work, but also a lot more reps than in the past.
So I'm not a coach, so obviously you're making these decisions from a different point of view. When you have situations like the second team offensive line against JT, and we only see 2 practices, so I know it's not that way all the time. Does the push to get the maximum amount of reps sometimes come at the expense of quality reps? And what's the balance in your mind?
No, we get a ton of good on good work. Yeah. So, if you see a little bit of that, that's probably to find out, if, our second team guys can block, give them an opportunity to play against the first team guys and see what that looks like. So we'll go ones on twos on ones, some, but mostly the work is good on good.
Ryan, in the scrimmage on Saturday, is there something that you learned that you hadn't seen the first 2 weeks of camp?
No, not much that I learned. I thought, some guys really stepped up. I thought there was a physicality in that scrimmage that was great for the first opportunity to tackle. I thought we tackled well on defense. It was a couple of missed tackles, but it was good to get guys on the ground. It was good to see Evan Pryor get his feet back underneath him. I think he was feeling his way around the first couple of drives and then really started to run better later on. I thought Cody Simon really showed up. He did some really good things. We did a champions. We kind of graded guys out and did a mock champions because, want to get guys in a rhythm of understanding, if you grade out 80% or higher, you're a champion. And that's the goal for, the position coaches and their units for guys to grade out a champion. So we recognize those. But no, overall, I thought it was solid. I thought it was consistent with what we've seen in practice.
Second row right, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
I just want to follow up on Bennett. That test was an internal test, and then that triggered some sort of mandatory.
It was an NCAA test.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the mandatory then? I guess he's out for
a year
season. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you go into a little more detail about what you saw from the quarterback play in the scrimmage? How were you, I guess, testing them in that capacity, and then what did you see from both of those guys?
Yeah, in the format that we had, we had some move it. We had a first and second down a situation where we run and play action pass where we stayed up thud, and then kept some of our guys out of the tackling situation that maybe had a non-contact shoulders or different things, and that was solid. First and second down, I thought they did well. We then transitioned to a move it period where it was hot and cold. There was some things that were good. Didn't really see the consistency that you want out of a starter, but there was some good things. I moved the team down the field a couple times. So I thought there was some good things there. Then we went on to a third down period where, I think the defense did a great job there. There was improvement from the first few third down periods that we've had on offense, but still not where we need to be. There was a coming out period that I thought, for the most part, the quarterbacks took care of the job and did their part there. And then it went to the red zone, and it was okay. wasn't great on either end. So I guess the bottom line is, there was some good things there, but there was also some plays that they would want back. And so again, we're looking for the consistency there. And I keep going back to the fact that I don't feel like there needs to be extraordinary play. It's making the routine plays routinely and taking care of the football, period. I think we have to understand situational football. I think that's important. And then ultimately leading the team down the field. So those are the areas that we've been emphasizing, and the competition will continue this week.
Behind him, Tony Gertman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, with two new quarterbacks, running game obviously would help to break the red. How do you judge that? How do you build that to in camp when you can't necessarily be as physical as you'd like?
Yeah, the running game is going to be very important. You think about the first years for Justin and for CJ, it was important to have a good running game. We learned the lesson on that in the Oregon game, in my opinion, on offense. You have to be able to run the football when you get in the red zone, when you get in third down situations, first and second down, it sets up play action pass. So it's something that we've been spending a lot of time on, and I like our progress there, but we got to keep building on it.
When it's good.
You can tell. Just week in and week out, day in and day out, you just feel it. It's the ball's getting to the second level, Trey's hitting the hole, the timing, the guy's rocking off the ball. You can see it when you're out there, and there's promise here. By the end of this week, you'd like to know where you're at in a lot of areas. This is kind of the last week we can just focus on football because classes start next Tuesday. So by the end of this week, you got to know. I think right now we know what we need to work on. We have a list of things. Here are the things we got to get better at this week. Here are some things we feel like we're doing well. But I said to the staff by Saturday, we need to have our identity kind of etched in stone on where we're at. And we say all the time, you have your fastballs, then you have your changeups and curveballs, but we better know where the fastballs are and then continue to get better at the changeups and curveballs.
Right next door, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, related to that, when you have an inexperienced quarterbacks, what's the focus or emphasis for the offensive line? Is the message you got to protect this guy? Is it pass protect? Is it we got to run? Is it a little bit of everything? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think the message for the whole offense is that, whether it's the line or the receivers, is that, they need a good picture of the quarterbacks. And the only way to get a good picture in the passing game is to, space out the routes. It's to give them a good pocket. It's to be clean. I mean, they have to be on their game early on for young quarterbacks. So I think that's important. But to your point, staying on schedule is going to be critical for young. If you're behind the sticks, and, anybody, forget who it is, CJ Stroud, and that puts us in a bad spot. So we have to be efficient. We have to be good on first down, and that means running the ball for 4 yards or more, and then being able to execute efficiently. The RPO game, the quick game, and then the play action pass.
Far right, Justin Holbrook, WCMH.
Going back to the split field, I'm curious, have you seen leaders emerge where maybe they wouldn't have a chance to otherwise if they're in a setting where their voice, maybe they don't know how to find it, and then you have a guy that gets more comfortable when it's like that?
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. I agree with it. I think what happens when you're the 2 or the 3, you just kind of sit back and watch somebody else do it, where when you're over there, like, it's fight or flight, and I think, like, if you're Tegra Shabola and you're now with the ones on that field, like, you got to do your job. There's nowhere else to go. And I have seen that. I've seen some guys step up in that matter because there's more of an expectation there. It's not like I'm going to wait for somebody else to come because he's not on this field. I'm the one on this field, and I got to go win this rep.
Or the corners getting their hands on more balls. Is that what you saw on Saturday too?
Yeah. I mean, they're. I feel like right now we're more competitive than we've been in a long time at the corner.
Behind him, Adam King, WBNS. Kind of going on.
The competitiveness from the defense, obviously you want to see your quarterback shine. How much merit do you give to the fact that the defense just looks that much better this offseason?
Yeah, it's something you always go through this time of season, and the easy thing to do is to all of a sudden try to change your scheme because maybe one side's seen the other side so much. You have 15 practices in the spring, and then you have the 10 here, so now you're 25 practices in. It's the same thing over and over again, and so one side starts to anticipate what the other is doing. And so today I talked to the staff and then talked to the team about just going right back to day one fundamentals, because that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to blocking. It's going to come down to getting off of blocks, and it's going to come down to toughness and running and hitting. So that's what we kind of went back at it today with, and we're going to continue to focus on that. Because there's going to be plays where, an offense, the defense anticipates it, and maybe a corner sees a route that he's seen 20 times, he's going to jump it. Okay, that's part of the game. We're not going to all of a sudden start to out-scheme each other and get away from fundamentals, because that's ultimately what's going to matter.
Go ahead. How much, I know you want to see a quarterback shine, and all the drills and everything, but how much are you watching the locker room from afar and seeing who's kind of taking charge there and becoming a leader there?
No, that's everything. Yeah. I mean, it's every day. The leadership is challenged. We have a leadership committee. The locker room's right next to my office. So we're all in there all the time and talking to guys and getting a feel for it. I've said this before. I feel like we have a mature team that has leadership, and that has to count for something. So those guys have to, show that leadership and be strong and call things out that need to be called out, because they know what it looks like. When you're young, you don't know what it looks like. You're just kind of playing football. These guys know what it looks like, and so that has to show up for us.
You have running back pecking order. Is there a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And how would you play 2, 3, as many as 4 guys in a game, or no?
I think first off, Trey has had a great offseason, and he's had a great first 10 days of practice. I think he looks fast. He's seeing the holes. He's involved on special teams. He's just overall, I can't say enough about the kind of work he's putting in right now. Now he's got to go do it. And I know he's anxious to get back on the field. From there, I think, Mayan and Dallin, Chip, Evan, those guys will all get in the game. there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. And we'll let them keep working, but there'll always be opportunity. I mean, you know how it went last year, right? Usually around this time of year, everyone looks at the depth chart and says, how are you going to get all these guys reps? And we're halfway through the season. We can't find a running back, it's just kind of how it goes. So I know those guys are taking care of their bodies. They all want to be healthy and they all want to play.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports. Ryan, going back to the offensive line and in terms of how that impacts the quarterback, is it more difficult to find a new starting quarterback when you have the questions that you're still trying to answer on the offensive line?
No, I know what you're asking. I think, no, I don't think that's going to affect the quarterback play. I think, the progress that's being made there. Yeah, I don't see that being an issue. I like the way we're trending. I think Justin's doing a great job, and I think we have a chance to have a really good O-line.
Going back to split fields real quick, did you see negatives on that maybe you didn't anticipate in addition to some of the positives you've addressed with us?
No, I mean it stresses out the line in some areas where maybe they have to take reps that double the reps because maybe a guy's hurt or whatever. So you may have 3 defensive tackles as opposed to 4. So they got worn down, or like a guard is taking maybe a few more reps than they typically would. But for the betterment of the whole, it's been really effective. I don't know how much longer we'll do it, but we did do it for 1 period again today. The second period, we did 2-minute. We were all in one field. We may do it for 1 more period tomorrow. But then, when we get to the team periods later in the day, I mean, there's 3 different other sections where we're not doing it. So we try to mix it in, but it certainly has increased the amount of reps.
Ryan, we didn't see mine or Tyleek out there on Friday. How are they doing with their status?
Yeah, they're doing fine. They have, they should be back here in the short term. We do have one update, right, though, on the long term. Is that okay? Yeah. Court Williams suffered an ACL, so he's going to be out. Really, feel awful for Court. Just feel like he can't catch a break. He's such a great young man, and so prayers are out to him, and we're all rallying around Court.
I want to ask about your situation at kicker. You have Carter and Jaden going for that job. What's the status of that competition? How are they doing? Are you close to having a guy there?
Yeah, they're going back and forth as well. I think we probably will have a good idea where we're at, but by the end of the week, we'll give them one more opportunity. But we're charting all the kicks, and the good news is we have 2 capable kickers there. But we probably need to decide who that's going to be here by the end of the week.
Podcast, Kings of Columbus.
Ryan, could you have named a starting quarterback today if it had, or would this be maybe still kind of too early?
Probably. Yeah, I guess if it was a different scenario, you'd probably be thinking in the next couple of days. Yeah. I mean, I think we were probably scheduled to do a press conference on Wednesday. That probably would have been about the right time, but we felt like the right thing to do is have the press conference today just to talk a little bit about the scrimmage before, we get some of the other guys, with you guys. But that probably in, CJ or Justin Gier was probably about that time. Practice, 12 or 13. But we're not there right now.
So if it's 2 really strong quarterback candidates competing versus maybe 2 guys who are obviously good players, but haven't quite gotten there. How is that? I guess if you want to, which one is this here? But is that a different scenario? Like, man, they're both so good, I can't decide, or neither has quite seized it, I can't decide. Is that a different decision making?
Yeah,
process?
yeah. I mean, I think it's somewhere in between the 2 of those. I do wish that somebody has really emerged. And I don't think it's right now where 2 guys are just blowing it out of the water and you're like, oh my God, I don't know who's going to play. But it's also not like they're not doing well either. I mean, there's really good play out there. There's ability, and now we're just looking for the consistency. And again, so we'll practice 10 today. So we still got 15 more before we play the first game. And, quarterbacks are funny that way. Sometimes you think and then you're right. Other times you're not, but you try to trust what your experiences have been and what you see on film. And we chart everything. We look at the numbers and the analytics of it all, but we also got the eyeball test as well, the leadership. What are the guys on the team thinking? I've asked already, what do you guys think here? It's the other coaches and the guys on defense just continually asking about what everybody's take is, because ultimately that's your leader.
How much are you individually as a head coach talking with Devin and Kyle during?
This is probably the only time I'm not talking to them right now.
And are you just trying to get a read on them? Are you imparting wisdom? Are you checking the
all of the
temperature?
above, all of the
Make sure
above,
you're okay in a tough battle.
all of the above. Yep. Yeah. Yes.
Front row left, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
So, Ryan, if it stays this close between Kyle and Devin,
Yeah.
I'm sure this is not what you want to happen. Is there a chance that you guys could go into the season playing two quarterbacks, or do you subscribe to the theory if we have two, we have none? Just is there a chance that could happen?
I mean, sure. I guess there's a chance. I mean, we'll kind of figure it out, and it's hard to play the what if, but we're getting closer. So, yeah. I mean, if someone doesn't emerge, you got to come up with a plan. So, we have our head down and just trying to work, and we haven't made it, any decisions right now. When we have to make a decision, we'll make a decision.
And back to the scrimmage real quick. You mentioned you guys recognized some champions that graded out over 80%. Who were some of those guys, and how many roughly guys?
Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me, and I try not to put it out there because then I'm going to forget somebody and they get upset. You know how it goes. But we probably had about 10 on offense and maybe a dozen on defense, right in there. A couple of guys that did, stood out was Cody Simon, definitely stood out, I think, on defense. I really like the way, Chip played in the game. I thought he ran hard. We didn't do a ton with Trey in my end, but Chip really got in there and ran hard. That was great to see. So, yeah, again, if I say a couple, I'll forget the rest of them.
Right. The way you talked last Wednesday about going into the scrimmage and you call it defining for where you guys wanted to go, whether it's on quarterback, you're talking other positions. Did that scrimmage not go the way maybe you guys had hoped it went? Because it doesn't sound like you're ready to do much of anything today.
No, I think it was a great scrimmage. I thought it was physical. I liked the way the guys competed. But to say that, guys emerged, no. It's just, there's things there that are really good. And then things that, you wish were a little better. But no, it was a physical scrimmage. I thought the guys competed hard. I thought it was great. We came out of it healthy, and really it was we're tackling guys, and it was a lot of reps. I think we were, let's see, it was 40. Yeah, we were north of like 115 snaps, 120 snaps, which, with three groups is great. And so we got a lot done.
Do you have an idea, at least, of where you want to go with places, or do you feel like it's more wide
Yeah.
open than it was?
Yeah. There's leaders in the clubhouse in certain positions. Yeah.
Fourth row right, Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Right, we saw Arvo Reese working at defensive end. Is that something you want to see full time from him? And what do you see from his development so far?
Coach Ginn, during the process of recruiting Arvell, had mentioned that maybe that was something that he foresaw could come down the road. And when Arvell got here, we immediately saw that he has a lot of talent, explosive, twitchy, smart, just big. And he did a nice job at linebacker. We felt like maybe taking a look for a week at defensive end, because he's going to get to 255. I mean, really fast. That he, has some twitch and has the strength and has the length to play at defensive end. And maybe as a freshman, that may be the best for him. We have not permanently made any decisions yet. If we feel like, we had moved Court to linebacker, and so we lost him. So if we get thin at linebacker, we may need to move him back a little bit. But we'd like to see if Arvell can get on the field as a freshman, certainly on special teams. But he has a unique skill set that we think he's got a bright future. So we're trying to see how this works. He's been great. His attitude's been great. And, we'll kind of see how the next week shakes.
Deep right, Jeremy Birmingham.
Rivals, the podcast.
Ryan, you guys, you made it a point at Big Ten Media Day to talk about defensive line rotation, how you kind of want to pare it down. But then we hear so much about Kenyatta Jackson and how he's taken such a major step up. How do you square those things? Is there a chance that maybe there's a world where Kenyatta is the guy starting opposite JT or Jack? I mean, how do you see that bearing out when you have different styles of defensive ends like that?
Yeah, I think we want to have guys that can take a workload of a whole game at starter level. And the more guys that we have that can do that, the better we are. When you're young, you think about where, JT and Jack and Tyleek and Mike were, they played as freshmen, they played as sophomores, they were still young. And so were they able to take that workload? Not all the time, sometimes. And so that's been the challenge for that group, now the older group. But the more young players that can come on, great. And Kenyatta is coming on. He's doing a great job. And so is Caden Curry, and Mitchell Melton's been out there. So this is all encouraging. And I think that's part of what we're talking about with the two groups. You're getting to see these guys work against each other, and they're getting each other better. So, that's a good problem to have.
Like there's a couple guys like Kenyatta, like CJ Hicks, like Sonny Styles, who you look at them when they're out there, they move a little different. They maybe are a touch higher class of athlete, but then they haven't been as consistent. When you get to see CJ and Sonny and Kenyatta in a scrimmage like Saturday, is that eye-opening for you guys as a staff to say, okay, now that the light's coming on, or is it a reminder that they're still young and need to, get more consistent?
Yeah, when you see someone, run around Twitch, Arvell, we were just talking about, I think you just mentioned some of those guys. Yeah, they just gifted. And when they can, we want to be competitive, we want to be tough, we want to be smart. And in order to anticipate and play smart, you have to really do a lot of the work, and you have to get reps. And the more reps you get, the more you learn. You're going to fail. We say to those guys all the time, the first time you jump on a bike, you didn't just drive your bike or ride your bike, you fell off. And so you're going to fail. How quickly can you learn from your mistakes? That's the challenge. And the only way to do that is to continually get reps, to learn and grow and get build. And so, some guys are further along than others, but that's it. And then you have to make a decision somewhere along the process. Are these reps worth investing in this young man or not? Because some guys can, get topped out for whatever those reasons are. I think all the guys you mentioned there, have really high ceilings.
Second row left, Steve Hellwagen, 24/7.
Yeah, Coach, on Friday, we get to see something that we don't normally see at the end of practice. And Mecca Buka was with his split group on his field, kind of letting the offense know that they weren't playing up to their standard and everything, and reminding them that in 3 weeks we have to go try and win a game. Just, is that an example of leadership that you like to see, somebody who's been there, let them know that it's not good enough just yet?
Absolutely. And that's what coaches will talk like. But then when your players are starting to do that, they understand the standard of what it should look like. That's when you got a chance. And that's what I was mentioning earlier about the leadership, guys who have been through it. And that's a third-year guy, but he's been around. He's veteran. That class, that third-year class, they have some experience now. They have some maturity. But then you also have the fourth and fifth-year guys. And when it comes from the players and it's player-led, that's when you have something. So, when something doesn't go well, they can rally each other. And you have to work on that. I challenge the leadership committee all the time. The only way to do that is to actually get up and speak in front of your peers. In today's day and age, as everybody wants to be on their phone. It's a little different to get up in front of your peers and challenge them. And, that's great for a Mecca to be able to do that. That's one example, but I've seen multiple guys do that. And we just need more of it, because we're going to have issues in the games. We're going to have moments on the sideline where we have to rally the team, moments where there may be, a game-changing play. We talk about sudden change this year a lot. When there's a sudden change, whether it's an explosive play or a change in field position, how are we going to respond? And it's one thing to come from the coaches, but it's another thing when it comes from the leaders. And so, we're really trying to foster that.
One other thing, the AP poll just came out, and you're at number 3 in this poll. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State with 1 first-place vote, and then Alabama, LSU. Just any thought about is this maybe a byproduct of people know about Marvin Harrison, they know about some of your high-end talent, and expect you to be in this race at the end of the season? Or what do you think?
I'm not sure. I just know that it's going to matter at the end of the season what kind of football we're playing, when we start talking about that part of it, because, I don't really start looking at those things until we get to November, because it does matter as you get to November for sure. But none of that stuff's going to matter if we don't win early on. And we have goals this year, and the first goal is to beat Indiana, and so, we're going to first check that box off and go from there.
Bring stoppage time right now, but I'll try to get a few more.
Stoppage.
Fourth row, Andy Andrews, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, just Friday, something stood out, at least just from our perspective watching practice, or my perspective, was Kyle McCord's pocket presence. Seemed to have a sense of when to climb, when to evade the rush. Is that something you see as a strength of his, and where does Devin Brown stand in that area as well?
I think it's something that all the quarterbacks are starting to figure out. You have to find the speed of the game, and you can't simulate a pass rush at all in the off season. You can throw routes on air, when those guys are out there on their own, and you can throw 7-on-7 or, do different things, but to actually simulate, men trying to come in and tackle you and guys up front blocking, there's a lot that comes with that. And so having the ability to see the coverage, see the routes, but feel the pocket is something that's learned. You don't just wake up one day and figure that out. And so we're really trying to force those guys to stay in there and feel that pocket, because there's times to escape, and there's times to slide and buy yourself time. We show film of Brady, he couldn't really scramble, but he found time in the pocket. How? Because he would slide when that was appropriate, to buy himself time in the pocket and find the soft spot in the pocket. And there's times where it's time to escape. And then you have guys like Russell Wilson and Mahomes, where they'll kind of slide up in the pocket and jump out for a couple seconds to extend the play, and then give those receivers just another tick or two to find the ball. Or, and then you have guys who just escape and go scramble. Those are all parts of the conversation. And this is not something you're born with. I mean, some guys have a good feel for it, but you got to coach it. And it's something that, we talk about all the time right now. And then also finding the speed of the game is important. Sometimes as quarterbacks, you're like a step slow. Sometimes you're a step fast. There's a rhythm and a speed of the game that we have to talk about all the time as we're bringing these guys along.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals, the podcast.
Ryan, just to follow up on offensive tackle, you think it is unlikely that you'll flip those guys back? You think Pryor and Luke are going to stay on the right side, Tegra and Josh Simmons are going to stay on the left side moving forward?
Yeah, I don't think we made a final decision on that, but if I had to project that, I would say yes.
Any kind of separation at center with Carson and Vic and Jacob coming out of the scrimmage?
No, I don't think I'd like to mention that yet. I mean, there was some decent play, but I don't think we're ready to identify somebody ahead of the other just yet. Yeah.
And with the quarterbacks, you said nobody has quite kind of blown out of the water yet, kind of wowed you with the way they're playing. I think perhaps one way to view that is you have a third-year guy and a second-year guy, a guy who's played a considerable amount, started a game, another guy who hasn't really done a whole lot. Shouldn't the older guy be farther ahead at this point? Do you view it that way? Do you sense any frustration with Kyle that it's still maybe tighter than people would expect given that dynamic?
I don't feel any of that. I know that, all those guys want to play and they're competing. But yeah, I mean, you'd like to think that you're simulating a game in practice, but it's not quite the same. So those are all things I'll take into consideration. Yeah.
Front row, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Is it, first of all, if you want to update us Wednesday, feel free. Is it truly even at quarterback, or is one guy ahead in your mind, but not enough to say a whole lot about it? And what's maybe the one thing that you want to see from each of those guys that could put them over the top?
I mean, that's a word I keep saying, that, consistency. You got to be able to do it over and over and over again. It's not good enough to just do it, 2 or 3 times and then throw an interception. Like, you just can't do that. And the expectation, the standard here is very, very high. But all these guys knew that when they came here. We all agreed on that in recruiting. Where is it at? I could give you a list of the things that both of them are doing well, and then a list of the things that they're not doing well. Just don't think as I sit here right now that I could name one the starter. But I know it's a long season, and we'll continue to think. And who knows? Maybe in the next few days, or by the end of the week, someone really just takes the next step. But we're trying to give these guys, the opportunity in as many reps as possible to try to, show us that they can do it.
You said you are confident that Justin can get that offensive line where it needs to be. There's still a lot of moving parts. Is that normal for this time of camp, or would you like to see it more settled?
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of moving parts since we made that move. So I mean, we're kind of settling into it, and I think we're actually in a pretty good place right now. Yeah.
And final questions, front row, Tim May, Letterman Row on 3, and the Tim May podcast.
That's a lot. Ryan, as you look at the tight end situation now, has Jelani picked up where he left off in the spring, Jelani Thurman? And what is just sort of your pecking order there right now from your vantage point?
Yeah, I think Joe has been out, and so hasn't practiced the whole bunch. I think G has done his best. He's did the best version of himself right now. He's practicing well. He's out there. I think Cade's the starter. Cade has been solid in there. He's had a really good camp. He's someone that's very, very important to our offense. But G's really shown that we can trust him in certain things right now, and so he's got to keep building on that. But the tight end position, it's a tough position. I mean, you got to put your hard hat on every single day, and you got to bring it, and you got to block like a lineman and run routes like a wideout. So G's learning that part of it. We'd like to get Joe back out there so we can get him going. Jelani's just, you can see the talent, you can see all that, but learning how to do all those things and put it all together, there's a lot of job descriptions. And so there's at times he's figuring all that out.
Yeah, put me in your head for a second. Are you the kind of guy when you make a decision on a quarterback, because it usually is the biggest decision on a team usually. Are you the kind of guy that you make a decision at the end of a day and then you sleep on it and come back the next day and revisit it? You know what I mean?
Some days you go to bed thinking, okay, I know where this is going. And the next day you're like, okay, I so much for that. Yes.
So what will it come down to for you? Obviously, we talk about consistency and all this kind of stuff, but do you feel a clock ticking right now, or is that what's going on in your head in that regard?
I mean, I'd like to get this week under our belt and then kind of go from there. I wish I had like a protocol that like, okay, this is how we do it. But I just think with this position and the way things shake out, you have to try to figure out what's right in this moment, and try to do the best we can with that.
And you got to have a starter for the opener. I mean, are you the kind of guy that would go into the open? Okay, you're starting, but this is still open. I mean, how would you?
Never done that before.
Yeah.
I'd rather not. But again, we'll try to do what's best, and best for the team. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
Coach, thank you so much.
All right, guys. Yep.
Ryan,
Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll close down the team room here at 1 o'clock, so you got 40 minutes.